Together, a little louder, please. Hare Krishna, blow, blow, blow. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. One more time again, a little louder. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All blessed Shri Prabhupada. Welcome devotees for morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we continue with chapter 13 of Canto 1, verse 6, and the chapter is entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home, and the class will be given by Prikshit Prabhu from ISKCON Harrisburg. He'll be covering both verse 6 and 7. So without further delay, we will go right into the class, and it's all yours. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Divadadari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Divadadari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Divadadari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Divadadari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Sharad Bihari, Radha Sharad Bihari, Sri Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Sri Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada, Guru De, Guru De, Guru De, Jaya Jaya Guru De, Nitai Gora, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribo. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Prabhupāda Stotra Sri Srimadi's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Chira Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Prabhupāda Stotra Sri Srimadi's Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Mathura Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hare Hare Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga, glory Sri Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Nityanamini. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddhartha Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Nityanamini. Narayana Namaskritya Narom Chevam Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nashta Prayesva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavata Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Good morning, devotees. So this morning's text is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Dhritarashtra quits home, and text 6. And we're going to read text 7 after that, since text 6 doesn't have a purport. Mumuchu prema baspakam virahot kantya katara rajatam ahayam chakre krita sana parigraham mumuchu prema baspakam virahon kantya katara rajatam aharam chakre Vitasana parigraham mumuchu prema baspagam vir rahantkatyakarata rajatam ahayam chakre kritasana parigraham. Hare Krishna. You may chant if you so desire.
Mumuchu prema paspogam vira hotkantya katara raja tamarhayam chakre krita sana parigraham. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mumuchu prema vaspagam viraha kanthaya katraha rajatam ariyam chakre krit asan panigraham. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right, word for word. Mumuchu, emanated. Prema, affectionate. Vaspa, ogam, emotional tears. Viraha, separation. Utkantya, anxiousness. Katara, being aggrieved. Raja, King Yudhisthira. Tam, unto him, Vidura. Ahayam chakre, offered reception. Rita, performance of. Asana, sitting accommodations. Parigraham, arrangement of. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Due to anxieties and long separation, they all cried out of affection. King Yudhisthira then arranged to offer sitting accommodations and a reception. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Text 7. Tambutkavantam vishrantam asinam sukam asane prashraya vanatu raja prahatesham chashrinvatam. Word for word. Tam, him, Vidura. Vuktvavantam, after feeding him sumptuously, Vishrantam, and having taken rest, Asinam, being seated, Sukham asane, on a comfortable seat, Vashraya avanata, naturally very gentle and meek. Raja, King Yudhishthira, Praha, began to speak. Deshamcha, and by them, Shinvatam, being heard. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. After Vidura ate sumptuously and took sufficient rest, he was comfortably seated. Then the king began to speak to him, and all who were present there listened. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. King Yudhishthira was expert in reception also, even in the case of his family members. Vidura was well received by all the family members by exchange of embraces and obeisances. After that, bathing and arrangements for a sumptuous dinner were made, and then he was given sufficient rest. After finishing his rest, he was offered a comfortable place to sit, and then the king began to talk about all happenings, both family and otherwise. That is the proper way to receive a beloved friend or even an enemy. According to Indian moral codes, even an enemy received at home should be so well received that he will not feel any fearful situation. An enemy is always afraid of his enemy, but this should not be so when he is received at home by his enemy. This means that a person, when received at home, should be treated as a relative. So what to speak of a family member like Vidura, who was a well-wisher for all the members of the family. Thus Yudhishthira Maharaj began to speak in the presence of all the other members. Om Gnatamiranjasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapata Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Pragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpataru Bescha Kripa Sindhive Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshicharini Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gora Chichaye Namaha Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Imavi Rivacha Vishniraya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Hare Krishna. So we'll read the English translation of the two texts, beginning from text 6. Due to anxieties and long separation, they all cried out of affection. King Yudhishthira then arranged to offer sitting accommodations and a reception. Text 7, English translation. After Vidura ate sumptuously and took sufficient rest, he was comfortably seated. Then the king began to speak to him, and all who were present there listened. Hare Krishna. So these two texts very much describe the way Vidura was treated when he returned. A very, 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 very big difference between how he left and how he returned. He left because Duryodhana insulted him, insulted his birth, literally, called him a son of a Dasi, and all of that, because Vidura spoke the truth and spoke the truth fearlessly. And the truth was against the plans by Duryodhana. So Duryodhana very disrespectfully treated Vidura. And Vidura took advantage of that to say, all right, I'm not really, really welcome in this palace. So he left, but he left to do Krishna conscious things. He went on the pilgrimage. He went to places that were places of pilgrimage where Krishna consciousness was the business there. And then he also met Uddhava first, and then later on, he met Maitreya, and he was asking all things concerning Krishna and Krishna consciousness. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 84, Text 13, Srila Prabhupada quotes this a lot. Yashatma buddhi kunape tridatuke. Swadi kalatra dishiboma ischati. Tete buddhi salilena kahichit. Janeshu abigeshu saeva gokara. And the meaning is that a person whose intelligence is so polluted that he takes the body, the physical body, which is made of mucus, bile, and air, these three, to be himself. A person who thinks that his family is an extension of himself, and that the nation that he was born to is worshipable. A person who goes to, on this third part, is the reason why we quoted this particular text. A person who goes to places of pilgrimage, and when there's waters, holy waters there, they just go bathe in that and take some pictures, and that's basically what it is that they go to do. They finish their business. That's the Prabhupada. They come to do that, finish their business, rather than inquiring at that place from people who know about Krishna consciousness, who know about the history of the place, and can tie it all together to raise the consciousness of the visitor. Many people who don't do that, and they just go do the physical things and things that is all, and not really hear anything about the Dham itself. In other words, they don't go to get preached to by those who know the significance of the Dham. People who are like that, who consider the body to be the self and the family is an extension of themselves, and they are only nationalists and not God conscious, they are no better than animals, like a cow or a donkey. Saeva Gukara. So clearly, Vidura's excursion or leaving the palace showed what it is that a person should do with his time. The important thing is to be involved in Krishna consciousness, serving, chanting, and also hearing. So Vidura had led an exemplary life within the circumstance at Hastinapur. And so they all knew, they meaning the families and even the people, knew very much that Vidura is a very honorable person. He kept himself so well, and this is what we need to learn from. So when he returned, they were all extremely happy to see him. But he had come for service, this time to his older brother, Dhritarashtra. Yudhishthira was a king then, so Yudhishthira is very well trained, and the leader and the oldest brother for the Pandavas, really, really the oldest brother, because it's been Karna that was born first, had left the body from the war. So, as the translation says, due to the anxieties and long separation. So when some people go away and they are the ones that we care about, we miss them. That's natural. We miss them here in the material world, in the spiritual world. It's even greater missing. That particular type of prema of love in the spiritual world is called mana. Mana is when a person is really unhappy because their beloved is gone. And you know, Krishna would leave sometimes to go different places on here, the earth, when he's here, and the gopis don't like it at all when he leaves Vrindavan. Oh, I'll come back in a short while, don't worry, but still they'll suck. They'll try to stop him even from going. So that particular type of love, when a person is missing the beloved in a spiritual standpoint, that's called mana, M-A-N-A. So due to anxieties and long separation, to get the person to come back, it's cause for celebration, literally. And that's why they all cried out of affection. They cried out of affection. They didn't cry out, they just cried because of affection. So you can imagine the person coming and they're all being happy and the hearts are all so heavy now. And they are happy and the tears, so these are tears of joy out of affection for him. Then the king says, well, here comes my uncle. They arranged to offer sitting accommodations and also a reception for him. Nicely received. When people come to our homes, we must receive them nicely. No matter how short a time they spend there, we have to receive them very nicely. So in text 7, part of the arrangement was to give Vidura Prashadam. Prashadam is very important. Sometimes when we are out trying to spread Krishna consciousness to people who are unaware or unfamiliar with it, and they might even not be ready to hear anything because they may have their own reasons why they don't want to hear God consciousness yet, but, God consciousness as yet. But if you offer them foodstuff that's offered to Krishna, even a snack offered to Krishna, they are more than likely going to say, yes, I'll take it. But Prashadam is also Krishna, Krishna's mercy. So we should never give up when we're trying to get somebody to be connected to Krishna consciousness and they don't want to listen to preaching and they want to just not care at that time, not knowing what they're really missing. Still give them the mercy by having some snacks on hand that are offered to Krishna and give them that. So Krishna, Mara Yudhishthira arranged for Vidura to eat sumptuously and rest. So he was not pressured to have to immediately report what happened when he was gone. They took care of him first because he had traveled and now he had returned. They took care of him. They made him, give him time to rest. And then they prepared a nice place for him to be seated. And then Maharaj Yudhishthira began to address him. So what's coming the next few texts will be nice to see Maharaj Yudhishthira's wisdom in the way he addresses Vidura in this case. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, Maharaj Yudhishthira was expert in reception also, even in the case of his family members. Vidura was well received by all the family members by exchanges of embraces and obeisances. So depending on somebody's, the relation that they have, you offer obeisance or you embrace if a person is at like a peer to you, then you embrace. Sometimes you may have somebody who is senior to you and you want to offer obeisances and respect that way, and they may refuse and they say, no, and they want to embrace, show even more love. That happened if you watch Mahabharata, you will see even the Mahabharata was acted with so much that Lord Chaitanya also showed that when he was very very, very inclined to show great love for even those who were following him. He would embrace them. And many wanted to offer respects by offering obeisances to them. So this is all exchange of love. So Srila Prabhupada continues in the purport that after that, then the bathing arrangements were made and sumptuous dinner arrangements were made. Then he was given sufficient rest, and then he was offered a nice place to sit, and the king began to talk to him about the things that were happening. He is a family member, and he was also dealing with part of the politics in Singapore at the time, before he left. So when he came back, Maharaj Yudhishthira kind of brought him up to date with what family was doing and other things that was happening in Srila Prabhupada. He said that this is the proper way to receive a beloved friend or even an enemy. Of course, when it comes to enemy, they come to your house, you have to receive them well. As a matter of fact, even in receiving an enemy well, that might even cause that enmity to be reduced. It is very possible from the way a person is treated that they may be so impressed if you treat them well that they may not even feel that inimical or enemy kind of feeling anymore. That sometimes happens. But Srila Prabhupada says an enemy is afraid of his enemy. Why? Because when an enemy is close, the other person, one enemy may think that the other enemy may do something harmful. But the moral codes dictate that when the person has come to the home, and the battlefield is a different story. You may be on opposite sides if you're Kshatriyas. If you're Kshatriyas, that is, or soldiers. But when the person is come to the house, that you have to be received, that person has to be received well. Prabhupada says that is the etiquette. So he says, Srila Prabhupada says that a person, when received at home, he should be treated like a relative. That's for everybody. So Vidura definitely was a relative and a well-wisher for the members of the family. So Maharaj Yudhishthira was particularly happy to see Vidura return. So all of this, you hear ringing on the background, Vaishnava etiquette, the etiquette, how we treat people. So Vaishnava etiquette has been focused on by His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami for a while. And he's even written some books, some notes, some lectures on Vaishnava etiquette. So as Vaishnavas, we should practice the proper etiquette at all times. In different situations, we have to relate a particular way. And by the mercy of Guranga, we'll go through some of the ways today in etiquette, because Maharaj Yudhishthira showed such wonderful etiquette to Vidura when he returned. And so were the family members also. They also acted so nicely and made Vidura very, very welcome. So, first, in relationships among Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas, there are seniors, there are peers, those are the same level, and then there are juniors. Bhakti Charu Swami has made some notes on this. The first point we want to stress is Srila Prabhupada has actually meticulously structured this Vaishnava Society, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, such that juniors always respect seniors and juniors receive affection and blessings from seniors. That's the way it should be. Which means a senior that is not showing affection towards a junior is doing the wrong thing. They always should show affections and blessings and give blessings, well wishes, that's blessings. and the juniors should also respect the seniors. So the society in general, Vaishnava society, as Maharaj Prithu's time, when he was king, the society was arranged that way. Maharaj Yudhishthira's time also. It was arranged according to Varnashram. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. That is the Brahmanas, the teachers, the spiritual teachers, Kshatriya, the administrators, and also the military people. Vaishya, the mercantile people, the business people, and Shudra, the employees. So that's for the social status. Then the spiritual part too was a brahmachari, the student life, young student life, grihastha, married life. Now there's a difference between grihastha and grihamedi. Grihastha is one who is married and also living according to Krishna consciousness do's and don'ts. A person who does not live according to Krishna consciousness do's and don'ts, but is married, is called a grihamedi. So grihastha is a spiritualist who is married. Vanaprastha is retired life, where a person focuses more on Krishna consciousness. And sannyasi is the renunciate, a person who is now giving up everything, giving up home, giving up family, giving up, and just devoting 10%, 100% of their time to Krishna consciousness. That's sannyasi. So those are the four spiritual orders. There's four social orders: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and the spiritual orders: Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and sannyasi. So because the society is structured that way, then the etiquette flows right along with the structure. So it's not so difficult. Sometimes if you write down to even how they dress, you can tell. A sannyasi dresses differently from what a grihastha would dress. A brahmachari dresses differently from what a grihastha and a vanaprastha would dress. So even the clothing alone can sometimes help to identify the person in a particular spiritual order. So the considerations of seniority is also according to initiation when it comes to God brothers and God sisters. Devotees who are those who received initiation earlier are considered senior among God family members. Now, then there's the Guru's God brothers. The Guru's God brothers should be respected like the Guru. You would receive blessings and so much information about Krishna consciousness when you respect your Guru's God brother. Sometimes we know what it is like between a person having a father who is instructing and raising that particular person as a child, and an uncle who comes. And the uncle tends to be a little more social, a little more free in how they do things. In the same way, the Guru's godbrothers may not be as strict as the Guru himself is. But we have to understand his position and give the godbrother of our Gurus the same level of respect as we give the Guru. When it comes to my own spiritual master, His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, he wanted his godbrothers to be respected even by us, by disciples, even more than the way we respect him. More than the way, not even the same thing, more than. That was very, very important to him. And so for a while, when we were in the Washington, D.C. area, those who were trained by Bhaktivedanta Swami were welcoming people as they came, new people, very, very nicely. Not even the godbrothers. This people who came, you come through the door, you feel very welcome. And many, many people who came and left later on sent cards at that time when things were not so electronic in the early 90s, and or letters showing how well they were treated when they were there. The godbrothers of Guru Maharaj also came. They were given very, very wonderful respect and good accommodation as best as could be provided. And then we got an opportunity to listen to them also in Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita classes. So we benefited very much from it. And sometimes even when someone's a Guru's godfather stopped by and we didn't know that he was there because we were of course not living in the same residence, we were in our different homes. Then there would be a couple of devotees that would get on the phone and call and tell people this particular respected godbrother of our guru is here. He's having a class this time. You should definitely come. You should definitely. So then people change their plans and then come to hear him. And sometimes it's in the morning. Some people may be going to work, but those whose situation was such that they could stay the whole class, they would come and attend the class. There were some who had to go to work at a certain time, but they still would come and attend until it's very close to the time that they have to leave. Then they would leave, and it's understood. Then they would leave. Another thing that was happening, very, very nice, as a matter of etiquette, was among the God family members. When a Mataji comes and there are not enough cushions, and some of the young men were sitting on a cushion, they would actually get up and offer their cushion to the Mataji to sit down. You don't find it these days happening very much, but it was actually happening there. So the etiquette was, in fact, very, very, very high level, of very high level of importance at that time. Hopefully this will be continued in different places too. But it was very, very nice. In fact, I was raised, even in Ghana at the time, that when we are in a bus, regular bus, we're not talking about even a spiritual place, just a bus, and adults come and the child is sitting and there's no place for the adult to sit, and therefore the adult has to stand. A child has to get up and ask the adult to sit on their seat, and the child will stand then, as the bus is moving. So this is all, respect that's given as part of etiquette of life, and these are all practically under mode of goodness. So the Guru's godbrothers should be respected just as the Guru. Sannyasis should also be respected as the Guru. Sannyasis should always be respected as the Guru, because they have devoted their lives, and the good respect given to sannyasi will most likely wind up in being instructed wonderfully about Krishna consciousness too. They share, this is what they do, sannyasis just share Krishna consciousness wherever they go. Because that particular ashram, that particular order is for 100% commitment to Krishna consciousness. And then the easier thing is, when you respect the sannyasi, most likely will, in fact, or you can ask questions. But Vidura was doing that. When Vidura met Maitreya, he asked so many questions about Krishna consciousness. So Bhakti Swami also explains that in a Vaishnava society, everyone tries to become humble. The more advanced one is, the more advanced a person is, the more humble he becomes. Very important in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 8 through 12. So Krishna lists certain qualities the person should have. And the first one is amanitva, humility. Now, humility does not mean that you become a doormat for people to step on. It's just how you handle yourself in certain situations in a very respectful way. Now, sometimes it may happen like a senior Vaishnava, senior devotee may respect a junior devotee due to that senior devotee's humility. But that junior devotee should not think that he deserves that respect from all senior devotees. If a junior devotee thinks like that, then that junior devotee is caught up in the false ego. The ego is so big. On the other hand, when a senior Vaishnava offers the junior devotee a respect, the junior devotee should actually feel extremely embarrassed. not that they voice anything about it, but they should feel embarrassed that I am not at his level and he's still offering respect to me. Sometimes you wouldn't believe this, but since I'm here to relate something that was very, very big to me, sometimes I would receive letters, or I would write and I would receive letters from Chilapapa disciples who are my guru's godfathers. And they will see, and they will still write in the beginning, please accept my humble obeisances, all glory to Chilapapa. And I'm saying, I should have said their humble obeisances when they're senior to me. And then it always made me feel uncomfortable. And that's the point that was being talked about here. And it's because I'm not at their level. I particularly had issues because my age was around and it's still around the age of some of the Sri Prabhupada disciples. Some of them are my age, some of them are older than me, some of them slightly younger than me, but I'm not, they're my gurus, godfathers, and god sisters. And that's the only way I see it, and no other way. But because my age is around them, so sometimes they want to leave that to me, especially the sannyasis when they do that, I can be more uncomfortable. But this is the way it is. I have to always remember. Now, I'm not even such a great example. When Krishna and Lord Brahma met, Lord Brahma and Krishna, Krishna put his hand on Lord Brahma's shoulder like a friend. And Lord Brahma, when he had the opportunity to speak, reminded Krishna, this is for, Krishna doesn't need to be reminded, but he told Krishna, and this we learn from this, that you have put your hand on my shoulder like a friend, but I know you are the Supreme Lord Vishnu, and I take you as my worshipful Lord under all conditions. This is just paraphrasing what Lord Brahma said. So Lord Brahma understood his position. And we always also should be aware of it. As Lord Chaitanya says, one should always remember that his business is to become more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. More humble, one way to be humble is also to be cooperative. The blade of grass doesn't fight you when you step on it. A blade of grass doesn't protest. A blade of grass cooperates when someone steps on it. So one way to be humble is to be cooperative. And more tolerant than a tree. Sometimes people put us in situations that is uncomfortable and we want to react to it in a negative way, but that is not the way to do it for a devotee. A devotee has to be tolerant. If a devotee's feelings are hurt and they can get out of the situation, they definitely should get out of the situation, but not use words that are going to be negative words or words that jab at the other person as a response to that situation. When you are making a point, and you make a point, and even if you feel you're right, and you start firing on a very, very strong and uncomfortable and very strong language, then you are saying the right thing if you're right, but you're saying it in the wrong way. So a devotee should be kind of balanced in all situations as far as emotions go. And of course, we are humans, sometimes emotions go up and sometimes they go down and so on. But when we are around devotees, we have to be careful how we speak. In that way, we always offering respects to others. Because when the devotee etiquette is compromised, then one's spiritual life is going to be destroyed. It's going to be affected in that way. So we have to be very, very careful about that. When senior, we say one more thing. When senior Vaishnavas are disagreeing among themselves, you should never take sides. When your senior Vaishnavas are saying some things in opposition to whatever they're talking about, you have to stay neutral. You have to stay neutral. Because if you take one side, then the side that is not taken, that person is going to feel offended. And when a devotee does not like what you're doing, then that's an offense. So you have to stay neutral. You may have your point, but you still have to stay neutral. Because sometimes there may be a quarrel going on among the senior Vaishnavas, but it may be a kind of pastime that is also underneath it that's beyond our understanding. So you have to be very, very careful. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there were quite a few times when the pure devotees were fighting each other. Now, you can see, and every time they fought each other, the reason was also explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So a person can read it and say, okay, well, this person was speaking like this person was speaking like that. Lord Chaitanya wants devotee, philosophy, and he preaches that. And Advaita Charya is preaching impersonalism. And so, but Advaita Charya is Mahavishnu. You to go after him and say, well, Advaita Charya is wrong. But Lord Chaitanya and Advaita Charya definitely disagreed. And Lord Chaitanya got physical with Advaita Charya. What would you do if you were there? So there was a pastime underneath it. And actually the pastime was that Advaita Charya came, he was the one that invited the Lord to come. So as far as that pastime goes, Advaita Charya was older. But Advaita Charya knew that Lord Chaitanya was the Supreme Personality of Godhead and wanted to offer him respect as the Lord. But Lord Chaitanya did not want Advaita Charya to offer him respect because Lord Chaitanya was looking at Advaita Charya as his senior, age and all, as his senior. And the Lord was also showing the kind of etiquette that the devotee should show as a whole. And Advaita Charya knew, but you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Radha Krishna combined, and you're not allowing me to give you the respect. Therefore, Advaita Charya planned to do something that will get the Lord very disturbed so that he could actually chastise him, Advaita Charya. So that's why he purposely preached Mayavad philosophy, impersonalism, knowing the Lord Chaitanya would not like that. And to Lord Chaitanya was told about it, that Advaita Charya was preaching that. He came, he listened, he saw it, and then he jumped on Advaita Charya. But this was all part of the fun because Advaita Charya, even though the Lord roughed him up, he got out smiling and said, now I've got you to chastise me. Something that you never have done if I hadn't done something like this, preaching and impersonalism. So underneath all of this disagreement, there was in fact a reason which was part of a pastime. That's why a devotee sees senior Vaishnavas disagree. They should not get in the middle of it. They should stay neutral because you never know what's going on. And in general, preachers should have compassion of innocent souls, but we should avoid those who are offensive. People who are offensive, if they cannot hear the holy name, they say all kinds of negative things, then find a way to get out of that situation. Avoid people who are offenders. So Maharaj Yudhishthira showed so much affection, and those in the palace showed so much affection for Vidura, and they made him feel very welcome, which is in fact the etiquette that the Vaishnava should show to people in general, especially those who are close to him or her. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here. And Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much for this wonderful class. It's such a nice reminder to us by Srila Prabhupada how King Yudhishthira was such an expert in reception. And I remember hearing different pastimes that he really was very, very keen on reception and service and respect and all that Vaishnava etiquette. So thank you for bringing that up. Yes, Mother Geeta, please go ahead, Mother.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Accept my obeisances.
Accept my humble obeisances, August.
Srila Prabhupada. I hope
Thank
you're
you.
doing well.
Thank you so much for a practical lecture. I had a
Krishna's
question.
mercy. Mhm.
You talked about that humility doesn't mean that we become a doormat. Can you
Mm.
give practical examples to identify how whether we are being a doormat or not? Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So sometimes the reason I use the long mat is sometimes people are thinking that if you become humble, then other people will be walking all over you. Mm. Now, that may happen in situations among non-devotees. Among non-devotees. I remember one situation, I won't mention names, but this is my god sister. In expressing humility, sometimes some devotees may say some things about themselves that they're not good at, or they may say, "Oh, in the negative, I'm like this and that and that," and this is a way of saying, even if they mean it, they're saying that they need to work on themselves. And if other devotees hear it, they might even offer help for that person to work on themselves, because after all, we're here to help each other to grow. Now, if a person says the same thing in a Vaishnav or non-devotee situation, in this particular Mataji did in fact say that she had a job and the supervisor was there, and there are a few things they wanted to tell her to do her job better. This is in a non-devotee situation. And she used this whole idea of humility means that we have to be, like a blade of grass, if we step on you. So she started talking about all kinds of things that were negative about her to the non-devotee supervisor. And guess what happened? She got fired. She lost her job. Because they say, "Oh, you think that way? Then why should we keep you?" So they let her go. So see, we gotta be careful. Yes, we have to be humble like a blade of grass, but also very wise about it, because devotees understand that. But non-devotees will treat you like, well, you're saying you're useless in so many words. Therefore, we'll treat you like a useless person. Or we want to have you here. So you got to be careful where you say those things. Especially if you admit in many ways to someone who is senior to you, and when in devotee also, not just non-devotee. Non-devotee situations, probably best to avoid it because they look by ego, and we don't act that way, or we don't think that way. So you have to be careful where you say things, where. Especially if you're going to admit that there are some faults and that needs to be worked on. You got to be careful that it's in a devotee situation and not a non-devotee situation, because then you'll be taken like someone who is useless. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Little tricky. Go ahead.
I was remembering, as you were speaking, I was remembering a class that I attended by Chandramani Swami recently, 2 days ago, on his Tuesday morning class. And Chandramani Swami said, and I want to read, it gave me goosebumps and I could really relate to it. And it was so nice to hear that again. He said that genuine spiritual relationship is when we see a devotee, we become alive again.
When you see a devotee, you become alive again.
Yes.
Yes.
That is so amazing, because I was realizing how that is so important in our Krishna consciousness, that when we see someone, we should be happy. We're like, oh, thank God you're here. I know I do it a lot to some of this youth. Oh, thank God you're here. You saved my life. And that is like real, so it's so nice that, we can actually experience that kind of relationship with devotees. And then I asked Chandramani Swami that how can we develop this mood that when we see a devotee that we become alive again. And he says to develop that mood, we need to develop humility. like you mentioned just now in your class. Yeah, I thought I would share that.
Yeah, very, 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 very important. Humility, yes, it very much connects to that. Very much connects to how we receive devotees. Well, yeah, we have to develop humility to be able to do that. Pranamari Swami is very much, as of course, Guru's instructor so well. So we're fortunate to have, and I'm even more fortunate that you've been able to remember by the Lord's mercy and share this point also.
Yeah, with my
That
crazy
when we're
mind, there's no
happy,
telling.
there's no you're showing humility yourself now, saying that you can't, but the Lord can help you to
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, when things are happening, you remember. And I'll tell you something. I think it was what's today's Tuesday, so it must have been day before, and in the Bhagavad Gita circle, we asked a question about the different levels of prema. The different levels of prema, the 7 levels of prema. And so by the Lord's mercy, I was able to start with, sneha, mana, then on, pranaya, all the way up to mahabhav, and explain those things. But the Lord is merciful, and when he wants us to do service that is important, he would make it possible. Mata smriti jnanam apohanam cha, and from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Now, here's a secret. Normally, I would have to look into my notes to find out what each one of them means. And somehow, but before I knew it, I'd gone through all 7 of them, no problem, remembering all the Sanskrit and their meanings also. So I thank the Lord very much. You took it as an example, answer to a question. But actually, the answers come by the mercy of the Lord, and even the remembrance of things that you have to say also comes by the mercy of the Lord when one is preaching. They should never think that, it's just by what I remember. And if you start talking about I'm this, I this, well, you're going to forget even more, because then you're putting yourself in the center. But if you put yourself as a servant that the Lord should use you to preach, then sometimes things, not sometimes, practically all of the time, things happen beyond your own abilities, because then you use as an instrument by which the Lord is preaching. And that is the best situation to be in. It's also a humble situation. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that was a very nice class by Chandramani Swami Tuesday morning that I had to attend. There was one pastime that I would like to share, which you and I were involved in. I would like to share with the devotees, because you spoke about how juniors should receive mercy from seniors, and as rather than feeling, I feel so qualified or something like that. I think you're mentioning.
Yeah.
And in 1996, when His Holiness Bhakti Swami was visiting Gitanagari for the centennial program, and at the time we were staying at Bhakti Swami's residence, and Maharaj happened to be staying there, and Maharaj walked to the door, and we had to welcome him. And from our training, we had to offer obeisances. So you and I went on, as I say, we hit the deck. We went on and hit our obeisances. And when we got up, we didn't see Maharaj, and Maharaj was offering obeisances to us. And we are like, what is this? We have never seen this. Not only did he offer obeisance, we felt so uncomfortable. I remember feeling like, oh my God, this is too much for me to handle. He got up and he gave you a hug, like a close hug. And we were like, okay, this is not how we were taught, but it was such mercy. It was such mercy. So I wanted to just share that, when that happens to devotees, we should see it as the mercy of the senior devotee giving us so much mercy and blessings, as opposed to, I'm qualified to get it from him. So I just wanted to share that pastime.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing it. Bhakti Swami has such a big heart. And she's so very much pro Srila Prabhupada. And we should remember things that he's done, especially now that we have the Abhay Charan series, which was one of the things that he did, and also very much reminding us the importance of Srila Prabhupada being central to our lives. whether he's Srila Prabhupada disciple or not, that Srila Prabhupada should be central to our lives, because the bottom line is, were it not for Srila Prabhupada, we will not be going back to Godhead. How many of us chant 64 rounds a day?
So true.
Which is the minimum for a Vaishnava. How many of us do that? We're not. We
So
couldn't. Srila Prabhupada has made it possible for us to go back to Godhead chanting a minimum of 16 rounds. So we are a mercy case, and the mercy is from the Guru, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And Bhakti Churu Swami, in so many ways, reminded us of the unique position that Srila Prabhupada should be for us going forward. In fact, the next 10,000 years is going to be like that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Any other questions from devotees? Any other thought? This is such a beautiful class.
There's a comment from Shorab, I think. Yeah?
Oh, Sharp said yes. Lot of learnings. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Yes.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's
Yeah,
mercy.
he was
Yeah.
sharing some of his thoughts during class, and he was saying that it's such a nice class, and he was really, in fact, he says that it's big. He was telling me personally, direct message, that he's from this class, he's remembering few things that he was taught by his parents that he forgot.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
So
good.
this class was a good reminder for him, he
This-
said.
This is the mercy of Bhakti Churu Swami, because this is where I've gotten the notes from, and basically sharing what he has left for us, the etiquette, Vaishnava etiquette. Hare Krishna.
And Bhakti Churu Swami is Vaishnav etiquette 100% personification. 100%. I don't think there's anyone that comes close to Maharaj. She's 100%.
We
I'm sure
learned
there
a
are
lot.
many.
Yeah.
There are many, but Maharaj always tops it up for some reason. He just beats everybody, and especially in his cooking. So yeah.
He was very much a champion of the understanding that we should have about Vaishnava etiquette.
Yes.
Yeah, by his mercy, we got all these notes to even talk about. Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
And by his mercy, we were able to have, his association, which is very, very nice too. Thank you. If
The
there are no
sannyasis
questions,
they all actually exhibit that. He taught it, but
Yes.
they really exhibit that. If you watch them, they're all like that. Hare
yeah.
Krishna.
If there are no questions or comments, we invite you to a quick reminder. Please join us this evening for Bhagavad Gita Circle with Balabhadra Prabhu. We will be continuing chapter 18, Perfection of Renunciation, which is the concluding chapter. So please do join us at 6 o'clock this evening. Until then, thank you so much for joining us. Vanchakraptubhyascha, Kripasidhavevcha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Have a wonderful day, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mother Gita.
Jai.